Hi guys, welcome to Cruising with Cruz here. I'm gonna make this video short and sweet because I think that might have been the last straw for me with NASCAR. I am not gonna lie, I think that was the last straw, and it's funny too because I'm like, am I the only one that's kind of like overreacting here? But then seeing these videos, oh man, there's so many videos that I've seen that is just so hilarious. But man, yeah. I was streaming this race earlier. Well, not streaming it, but I was like doing a watch along, and someone was telling me I should just stop, and I stopped. Right, I just kind of stopped my stream, and then once we get to the final stage, I'm emphasizing stage because, oh boy, again, I'm gonna do a separate video in regards to the state of NASCAR, in my opinion, like my own opinion of the state of the sport. But this is like my rant post race. Like, I had some time to kind of just process what just happened. You know, people are. It's funny because people are pissed over the, what's it called? The elections and all that stuff, right? I think everyone has a valid reason to be pissed at the championship 4. And I read the stats of this too, and it's freaking hilarious. 4 wins, 13 top 10s, average finish of 17.1. Yeah. And he's a 3-time champion. And this is also why I hate that they have been doing this race at Phoenix, because it is just literally. I also saw a statistic too of how Penske's just been flat out, and I mean flat out, good at these flat tracks. Gateway, Richmond, Martinsville, Phoenix. Again, we can compare an apple to an orange, and I say an apple to an orange because we can compare this to when Jimmy Johnson was dominant. But the biggest difference here is the biggest difference here. The old chase format, when it was, okay, top 10 drivers, now and then 12, who got in by points, will reset the points and make it a 10 race points battle. Now understand, I'm saying points. 2014, they introduced this new playoff format. Well, at the time, they call it the I don't know if they called it the playoffs back then, because I know they called it something different back then. I'm just too caught in my emotions right now. But back in 2014, it was cool when they introduced this idea. It was really cool. But then, ironically, we go to Phoenix, right? What does Ryan Newman do to get into the round of 4? He freaking practically just dumps Larson out the way so he can get in. At the time, it was not a big deal. Not a fucking big deal. And excuse my French, but I am just legitimately pissed right now. Because the downfall of the sport couldn't happen at a better time. And with their, I guess, prodigy of a driver who is now supposedly a 3-time champion. And I saw another little comment that said well, if we call Joey Logano a 3-time champion, then I might as well call Carl Edwards a 2-time champion. Which I agree. Which I totally, completely agree. Because ironically, who was Edwards racing against in that final restart? But thankfully he didn't win that championship, but it was Joey Logano. At least I went to a guy that deserved the 7th champion and said that, hey, no matter what format you give him, he is the GOAT. But we're not here to talk about Jimmy Johnson. No, we're here to talk about how NASCAR really screwed the sport big time. And they practically did give Logano, this was evident that they gave Logano the championship. Let's be honest here. A lot of sports tend to be rigged. We live in that time where sports like living a script moment. When they're like, oh, you can't script this. They're scripting it. It's straight up, movie script status. I definitely am a believer that they scripted this well ahead of time. Because the fact that they, and this is the thing that bothers me, because they're like throwing this thing like, oh, Logano goes in the round of 4 when it's even numbers. Oh, he always, like, no. Just no. And I hate it for Logano too, because he's like, he has a horrible fan base. And the fact that this is like, this is just making it worse. Like, way worse than it should be. I just knew, I don't know, something deep inside of me, back to when I was talking about this, right? Something deep inside of me was telling me that for some forsaken reason, Logano was going to win this race. I just had that feeling, because I know NASCAR is kind of, I think, and this is my theory, but I think NASCAR tried to bring negative attention to this so they don't, so people can forget about the lawsuit that's going on. No, this is now going to bring more attention than ever before. And I hate to say it, but I really hope NASCAR really gets screwed by this lawsuit and they get exposed for all the BS. Because the diehard fans, they're gone. I know for a fact they're gone. When I saw Logano come out and during the pre-race ceremonies, those boos were genuine boos. What did NBC decide to do once he won that championship? They decided to mimic the boos with actual applauses. And I know it was not a legit applauses, because I know there was a bunch of people booing in those stands. I know there were. Ugh. I honestly, if there was a Penske driver that I wanted to win, it would have been Blaney. Like, I would have been happy with Blaney winning it over Logano. But the fact that Logano got into the round of 8 because Bowman had a light car, just because this is the thing too, like, NASCAR's so black and white with these freaking inspections and stuff like that it's like, oh, because I'm pretty sure the reason why that car was light was because he ran over that turtle hump at the Roval. So had Bowman not been eliminated, what would have been the different result? Because, look, again, NASCAR is just kind of screwing themselves more and more and over. And the way I look at these Logano fans too, I'm not trying to bring politics into this, but this is, the Logano fans literally remind me of the people that didn't want Trump to win. Because, look, they might say otherwise with me saying, like, complaining about this, but I have a valid reason as well as everybody else. That's why I had to take a minute to see if I'm the only one that's overreacting to this. No, this is just a genuine reaction from everyone. Because it's true. Logano, I hate to say it, he has talent, but he doesn't know when to actually show the talent and to not be conceited about that talent, because then he'll just go out wrecking people and play victim, just like a typical person that likes playing the victim. And the thing that just really irritates me the most about this is just how really this has been playing out for so long. And I hate how NASCAR's kind of cracking. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just dumb. This playoff format is dumb. And what makes it worse, too, is, like, they decided to host it at the most boring fucking track on the schedule. Like, Phoenix and New Hampshire are probably the most boring tracks on the Cup schedule. Why? Because there's just no entertainment into it. There's not. The only entertainment they have is just those stupid restarts, because they decided, like, oh, we shouldn't have the start-finish line at the original front stretch. Let's just toss it in the back stretch and just see what happens, you know? They knew what was going to happen. And the fact that NASCAR keeps having the season finale at that track over and over and over again, it's just so, like, I remember the times of actually enjoying, like I take back on hate, like the Jimmy Johnson hate I had, because I really didn't hate him. I was just annoyed that he kept winning the championships. But they were entertaining. They were actually good to watch, because I actually wanted to watch the race from start to finish. Compared to this race today, honestly, there was a point where I was like, I know I'm gonna be bored. That's why I cut the stream short, because I was like, dude, I was just getting bored. Like, there was just no entertainment whatsoever. Like, none. And what's annoying, too, is I feel bad for these announcers and whatnot that are just having to play by a script and just kind of hyping up the race, because I know there's no entertainment value in that. There's no entertainment value whatsoever. Especially have one of the most annoying fucking drivers in the sport leading and then essentially calling himself a 3-time champion. That ain't gonna cut it. I'm sorry, that ain't gonna cut it for me. Does that mean I'm done with NASCAR? I'm most likely just not gonna be tuning in as much like I used to. Like, this was just definitely the final straw. Why? Because I hate Logano. I really do. Like, I think back, I think it was 2018, I think it was, because that's when he won the championship. When he wrecked Truex and he got in. And then Truex had every opportunity to take that away from him, but he chose not to. Why? Because Truex is the better driver. And I know there are people out there that hate on Truex, but I don't know why you hate on Truex. Like, Truex is... I think he's a good guy compared to Logano. Like, the people that think Logano is better than Truex, you're dumb. I'm sorry. Because Logano is just one of those kids... Or was one of those kids. Now he's an adult kid that just doesn't take accountability for anything. Especially when it comes to his plate racing. God, I hate how he races at the plate tracks. And I can see why Keselowski left. Even though Keselowski's not a better plate racer. But I can see why he left. Because Logano's just... It's Logano. Like... Also, I do want to give a shout out to Truex, though. I'm happy he's leaving and he's ending now. Because he was, like, one of the original, like, my trio of drivers. Junior, Edwards, and Truex Jr. Those were my 3 drivers I grew up watching and loving. Because I got into NASCAR literally in the 2006 season. That was my first invested season. That's why I think coming into next season, I'm coming up with ideas that just kind of compromise with the actual NASCAR season, and that's gonna be described in the video that I'm gonna talk about in the state of the sport. Because right now this is just kind of like heat of the moment, you know. Because let's just face it, NASCAR really screwed the pooch on this one. They really did. I find it ironic. I have a Coke product here, and he's actually sponsored by Coke. But yeah, NASCAR kind of screwed this one. And I had that feeling too. Like I said, I don't know what it was. And it's funny too because this feeling I had, because I live here out in San Diego. And for those of you that don't know, San Diego and Dodgers kind of had a really big rivalry for God knows how long. It's not even just the Dodgers. Like, San Diego has had a really big rivalry with LA for the longest time when they had the Raiders. All that stuff. Like, we go way back. But this feeling I had of Logano winning, it was kind of the same feeling that I had that I was like, the Dodgers were going to destroy the Padres for some odd reason. Even though we have a really good baseball team. I knew, like, we had the team to dismantle the Dodgers and actually go all the way to the World Series. But obviously that didn't happen. And look who won the World Series, ironically. And now Logano wins it. Like... In terms of sports that I like, it's like literally the most hated team or driver, they win it. Oh my god. But I'm not gonna get into it, but one person won that I was actually happy about. But that's another topic, nor here or there. But I will leave it at this. NASCAR really, really needs to restructure big time because boy, oh boy, I don't know what's gonna happen next. Like, me personally, like I said, I'm not gonna be as invested into the sport. I probably might tune into the Mexico race because I do have plans on trying to go to that race because I have family down there, and I kind of been thinking about doing like a little family trip with them to go out to that race. But that just might be it. That might be the only thing that I'll do. I know they've been in talks of having a street race here in San Diego, which I am working on a video for that, because I do want to talk about that too. But in terms of the main product, the sport, NASCAR, its true integrity, excuse me, they really, really need to do something. This playoff format has really just caused a lot of hatred to the integrity of the sport. Because at the end of the day, I love NASCAR. I wouldn't have loved NASCAR if I didn't like watching the old races. Like, if I hated NASCAR, I wouldn't have anything to do with it. But I still have a love for it. Why? Because it was a sport I grew up watching and loving and wanted to be a part of. Now that I see where the sport's at, it's like I'm kind of glad that I didn't become that driver. Because, I mean, if it was a what-if scenario, who knows where I would have been. I know a lot of us NASCAR fans that grew up watching this sport always wonder that what if I was in that sport, you know? And I'm glad that I'm not a part of the sport where it's at now, because right now the state of the sport, it is really really in deep turmoil right now, and I just don't know how to move forward from this. Well, I mean, I'm still gonna live my life. Like, we're gonna wake up the next day and just continue with our life. But in terms of just how I'm going to approach the sport, you know, because I've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to say it again, the integrity, like, Daytona 500 is not the same anymore. These crown jewel races are not the same anymore. Just the racing product itself is not the same anymore, because they got to have these gimmicks. You know, they got to keep having these stupid gimmicks, you know, and it's funny because I've seen interviews with Carl Edwards, and I see him just beating around the bush how NASCAR just screwed him over of a championship, and they did. And to see NASCAR give Logano a championship, you know, it just says a lot. You know why? Because the Penske cars are good at the flat tracks. So inevitably, Penske had a legit, like, I wouldn't say a 50% shot of winning that championship. They had a good 80% compared to Byron and Reddick. So, I mean, congrats Logano on your championship, dude. That's cool, man. But I personally will not call you a 3-time champion. Because you definitely were on the wrong end of the stick in terms of just, you know, with this format. Because you definitely, ever since this format came into play, that's how you've won your championships. Unfortunately. Like, let's go back to 2015 or 16 when you wrecked Kenseth? Just so you can get in? You wrecked Truex so you can get in? Like, we can if I'm gonna make a good list on you, we can pull out receipts. As a matter of fact, someone pulled out a receipt from back 2008, 2009 when you intentionally wrecked someone because you got butthurt that Austin Dillon gave you a taste of your own medicine. But again, you as a driver don't take any accountability whatsoever. And that's why I as a fan just don't want to watch this anymore. Why? Because this driver just wants to pretend that he is the best thing to freaking be in the sport when in reality he's nothing close to it. And like the stats say, dude, no top fives. Yeah, the wins, okay, cool. Well, if we're gonna count the wins as top fives, 4 top fives, 13 top 10s, average finish of 17th, and yet you're a NASCAR champion. That doesn't sit right with me, dude. Because, hey, guess what? If that's the case, then Jimmy Johnson's still the greatest driver ever. Like, his crappy finishes, it doesn't matter. Why? Because he's still the greatest driver ever. If we're going to really, like, ignore facts here, then let's just do that. Jimmy Johnson still got it. It's just stupid. Oh, my God. But I think that's it. You know, please leave a like, subscribe. I would love to hear from everybody else that watches this because, yeah, this definitely was the last straw for me. It was the last straw for me. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing any NASCAR related content. Because like I said, this kind of brewed a beautiful idea in my head. And I can't wait to actually say that in the next video. Because, yeah, my next video is going to be the state of NASCAR. This is just my rant of the championship for it. So, congrats, Logano.